The sterile fluorescent lights of the courtroom seemed to amplify the tremor in my hands. My divorce from Svetlana, a woman I had loved with the entirety of my being, was finally reaching its crescendo. Or so I thought. She had blindsided me, filing for divorce, accusing me, in a stunning twist of reality, of infidelity, claiming I'd been unfaithful throughout our marriage. The lies had been relentless. She'd crafted this elaborate narrative of late nights, hushed phone calls, and unexplained absences, painting me as some philandering monster. My heart ached with the injustice of it all, the sheer audacity of her projection. Svetlana had always been a master manipulator, able to twist the truth into whatever shape suited her best. But this was a new low. My lawyer had tried to prepare me, to brace me for the ugliness of it all. But no amount of preparation could have shielded me from the wave of betrayal that washed over me each time she spoke, each time she looked at me with those fabricated tears in her eyes. Her family, who had always seemed so fond of me, sat stone-faced, nodding along to her lies. I felt alone, utterly isolated in this circus of deception. My own family, bless their souls, had come out in full force to support me, their faces filled with worry. They knew me, they knew my heart, they knew I would never do such a thing. But they also knew that appearances can often outweigh the truth in a court of law. I had one card left to play, a witness I had been hesitant to call, partly because of the vulnerability it exposed, but mostly because I had desperately wanted to avoid bringing her into the toxic mess Svetlana had created. Her name was Olivia, a woman I had met at a networking event years ago. We had remained friendly over the years, nothing more, but it was through Olivia that I had stumbled upon the horrific truth of Svetlana's infidelity. Olivia had come to me a few weeks before Svetlana filed for divorce, her voice laced with concern. She had confided in me that she had witnessed Svetlana with another man, a man named Garrett, in a hotel bar on multiple occasions, their behavior anything but platonic. She had even managed to snap a few pictures, grainy and taken from a distance, but undeniably Svetlana and Garrett. When I'd initially seen them, the world had tilted on its axis. It was like a punch to the gut. It was the first time I realized the extent of Svetlana's cruelty. Now, as the judge called Olivia's name, I felt my heart pounding in my chest. She was my last hope, the only person who could expose Svetlana's lies for what they were. Olivia walked to the stand, her head held high, her eyes meeting mine for a brief moment, a silent reassurance passing between us. She took the oath, her voice clear and strong. My lawyer began the questioning, leading her through the details of the time she saw Svetlana with Garrett. She recounted the dates, the location, the intimate gestures she had witnessed. The silence in the courtroom was thick and heavy. Then, the pictures were submitted into evidence, blown up on a large screen for everyone to see. That's when Svetlana's perfect facade began to crack. The color drained from her face as the incriminating images flashed before her eyes, her lies unraveling in real time. But it wasn't her reaction that caused the gasp of shock to ripple through the courtroom, it was Olivia's. Her eyes were wide, fixated not on the pictures, but on the man sitting beside Svetlana, Garrett. Olivia's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief. That's him," she whispered, her voice barely audible but filled with a mixture of shock and anger. "Who, Miss Reynolds?" my lawyer asked, his voice gentle yet firm. Olivia swallowed, her gaze locked on Garrett. "That's Garrett, the same Garrett who assaulted me 3 months ago, the same man who tried to," her voice trailed off, tears welling up in her eyes. The courtroom erupted into a chaotic buzz of whispers. Svetlana's family looked from Olivia to Garrett with a mixture of confusion and horror. Garrett, who had been smug and confident, suddenly looked pale and uneasy. The tables had turned, the focus shifted from my alleged infidelity to the far more disturbing actions of Svetlana's lover. My mind was racing. I had been so focused on proving my innocence, I hadn't even considered the possibility of this. Svetlana hadn't just cheated on me, she had been sleeping with a man who had assaulted my witness, a woman who had tried to help me. The sheer depravity of it all was sickening. The judge quickly regained control of the court, requesting calm. Olivia, once she had composed herself, explained in detail the assault, the pain, the fear she had carried since. The police report, filed months ago, was introduced as evidence, matching her description of the man to Garrett. As the details unfolded, Garrett's face contorted into a mask of panic. He tried to deny it, to shout over her testimony, but the evidence was too damning. That's when everything imploded for Garrett, the smug confidence replaced by a desperate fear. The police were called, and he was immediately taken into custody. Svetlana, witnessing her world collapse around her, was shell-shocked, the smugness that had been her constant companion completely gone. I watched, emotionless, as the reality of her actions finally caught up with her. Her family, once so fiercely loyal, turned away from her in disgust. The proceedings were abruptly halted as police took Garrett into custody, and the judge ordered an immediate investigation into the assault. The focus of the divorce case had completely shifted, morphing from a narrative of my supposed betrayal into a chilling exposé of Svetlana's deceit and Garrett's predatory behavior. That day, I wasn't just exonerated, I was vindicated. It wasn't just about winning in court, it was about the truth finally emerging into the light, shattering the carefully constructed lies Svetlana had tried to hide behind. But as satisfying as the court proceedings were, I couldn't shake the need for a more direct form of justice, a confrontation with the man who had not only slept with my wife but had also violated Olivia. A few weeks later, I tracked Garrett down. He was staying at a seedy motel, waiting, I guessed, for his day in court for the assault. I found him coming out of his room, unshaven, looking haggard and defeated. His once cocky demeanor was nowhere to be found. I didn't waste time on words. I simply looked at him, a rage I didn't even know existed bubbling inside me. He recognized the look in my eyes and tried to back away. I stepped forward, my hand clenched into a fist, and before he could react, I landed a punch square on his jaw. He stumbled backwards, and I moved in again, another punch landing on his face, then another, and another. He was no match for me. The years of suppressed anger, the pain of Svetlana's betrayal, and the sheer fury for what he had done to Olivia propelled me forward. He eventually collapsed on the floor, whimpering and bleeding. I stood over him, watching him writhe in pain. For the first time in months, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The anger hadn't evaporated completely, but it was dulled, replaced by a strange sense of satisfaction. I left him there, defeated and broken. He would face the consequences of his actions in court, but for me, at that moment, seeing him reduced to nothing was enough. The divorce was settled quickly, and in my favor. Svetlana was stripped of any right to my assets, her reputation tarnished beyond repair. She had tried to destroy me, but in the end, she had destroyed herself. She lost everything, her marriage, her family's respect, and the facade of her perfect life. I know people may question the violence I inflicted on Garrett. But the truth is, I felt no regret. I did what I needed to do, what my heart demanded. The events had changed me, hardened me in some ways, but also revealed a strength I never knew I possessed. I had navigated through the darkest depths of betrayal and emerged, battered, but not broken. I often think about Svetlana, not with anger, but with a strange sort of pity. She had tried to create a world built on lies, and like all houses of cards, it had collapsed around her. As for me, I was finally free, ready to begin anew, with the hard-earned understanding that sometimes, the most satisfying revenge is simply living well, and moving on from those who tried to destroy you.